Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the GB America podcast. I'm Dave Groves. Glad to have you here today. And want to thank our friends and the wonderful people over at OurTrueGod.com for their support of the podcast. We appreciate them for sure. Today, we have a very special guest with us. If you spend any time on TikTok or IG, you've seen her because I feel like she's on there a lot. I don't know what she does the other time of the day, but Jennifer Beckham joins us on the podcast. Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the speakers and not necessarily those of GEB America, Oral Roberts University, or their employees. This program is not intended to offer investment, financial, medical, legal, or any other advice. Viewers should consult a subject matter professional regarding any such matters.
So I teased that a little bit, but, first of all, how did you stumble upon and becoming kind of this internet, IG, TikTok sensation? How did that happen?
Depression.
Great answer.
Absolutely. So it certainly was not planned. I know TikTok well because my daughter has been on TikTok since it's begun. It was Musically before it was TikTok. And so she was a crowned creator influencer over there on Musically. It turned into TikTok. And so she's a massive influencer. Nothing that I ever took part in. I was just momager for her, to be honest with you. And so it was always just something that she said, Mom, why don't you minister online? But when her dad was alive, my husband, we never jumped on. It was something that she did. It was a kid's thing, type of thing. And then, fast forward my life with after the passing of my husband, and I'm sure we'll get to that, but my husband passed away 4 years ago of COVID. And I found myself in a place where I was just, to be honest with you, David, I was in a really dark season during the holidays, and it was 12 days before Christmas. You could feel Christmas in the air, but it wasn't a good feeling for me. Did not have my children had empty nested already. Husband passed away, resigned the church that we were pastoring at the time. And it was just going into the holidays. And I thought, you know what? It's 10:30 at night and I need to connect with human beings or I'm in trouble.
Yes.
It was one of those things. And so I just kept hearing her in my head just say, Mom, just push live and talk to people, help them. And I did. That began a community that I did not plan for. And about 6,500 people showed up that night. The next night, about 12,000. The next night, about 13. And so every night, 5 nights a week for about 3 hours at night, when most people are struggling and whatever is ailing you is hurting all the worse. That's where we are. 15 hours a week, 5 nights a week, 3 hours a night at least. And it's
Wow.
from about 10.
I knew you were on a lot.
Yeah. From about 10:30 at night to about 2 a.m. And people are like, why are you on so late? Because when the sun goes down, the walls close in.
Yeah.
And that's when people ruminate and lay in their beds and just think about their lives. And that's really what I was doing, if I'm honest with you. And so by his grace, God met us there in the midst of it. And we call it a safe place to land, a soft place to land, and a safe place to fall. So it's
I
most
love that.
definitely something that has grown without my planning.
Yeah. All the great things do, that God multiplies. So let's go back a second because I want to make sure I heard you right. So the first night, 500 people showed up. So did you just go on there and say, hey, this is just, I'm just here to talk and I know what it's like to be,
Yeah.
through depression and tragedy and people just, came in?
Yeah, I was so I do grief recovery by day. And so I have already, I spend my life in the pit with people. I just always have. I've been in ministry for now 29 years full time. My husband and I went from strangers to married in 8 weeks. Like, hi, nice to meet you, perfect stranger, to walking down the aisle 8 weeks later. And we did our first revival, first ministry appointment together 2 weeks after we were married, just after the honeymoon. And we stayed in full time ministry for the entire 25 years before he got COVID and passed away. So then the years after that, I was just really trying to figure out, I know that my mission is still the same. My mission has always been restoration, sharing the hope of Jesus, correcting people's idea of who God is so that he would be a person that you would want to run to. And so that's really always been my mission. I just knew that it would be a different method. I just didn't know it would be this method. So on December 13th, I was actually wrapping birthday presents for my mom, whose birthday is on December 14th. And as I was putting the wrapping paper away, I ran into the Christmas wrapping paper and realized, you know what? I'm 12 days out and it just hit me. And it was that sinking feeling. And so I just thought, okay, I know this feeling. This feels like a spiral coming on. And if I don't connect with human beings, I'm in trouble. So I hit the live because I just figured if nothing else, let's see who else is out here struggling through the
Yeah.
holidays. And that's all it really was. It was really just, I can answer questions. I've been in ministry a long time. Let's open up the Bible together. If you have a question, if you're in grief, I know how to deal with that because I do that by day. And so, yeah, that's exactly what it became is just, yeah, just a soft place to land and a safe place, where people could just come in and just share what was going on. And we ran into a lot of people that had struggles with their faith, that were angry. And I knew that feeling, I wasn't mad at God, but I was mad at the situation of how it went down.
Sure.
And so we had those conversations and they've this evolved into a community where it really is safe. Yeah.
I think it's interesting, in our culture, we have spent so many years kind of not addressing people's real mental health. People would think of, well, that's like, an extreme if you hear those words. But the truth is, everybody struggles with something that has to do with this brain, whether it's OCD or it's grief or it's, other tragic incidents where it truly is a daily chore. And so often it's, well, just pray. I heard a pastor say one time, when your heart's sick, you take medicine. When your brain's sick, what do? Do you go to a therapist? Do you go get medicine? No, often it's just people and being a Gen Xer, it's just, you just grind.
Right.
You just go.
Yeah.
You just keep, my dad used to say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah.
And I think that it's refreshing to know that, there are people that are out there that, you're not alone.
Yeah.
The trick of the enemy is always isolation
Sure.
first.
Yeah.
And that's what you were feeling when you were like, maybe I should just go live, like my daughter said.
Well,
That's amazing.
we isolate intentionally because we're walking wounded. And
Mm-hmm.
when we're too close to people, they bump into our wounds and we just get tired of hurting and being hurt, and people don't intend to hurt. Most people, I always say that grief is the thing that, everybody, nobody wants, everybody has. And in all honesty, just the topic itself clears a room in 2 seconds. Like you bring up grief and people are gone, and nobody wants to be quote sad. My daughter even refers to my ministry as, Mom, you have a Debbie Downer ministry. And she's like, you love to just talk about sad things. And the thing is I know that his mercy is new every morning. And I know that in order to get people out of a pit, you have to crawl in there with them. I don't mind the hard things. It's, I enjoy it because I can feel the breath, the final, like somebody will finally talk about this, And so there's over 44 different types of grief. It's not just burying someone. And I think that that's what we don't understand is that it's the normal natural reaction to change or loss of any kind. So even just a move, even just, empty nesting your kids, or even just changing out, moving from one stage or phase of your life to another will even cause grief. And so I think we all have those moments where it's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm in a funk. Most people call it a funk, and they don't know that what they're feeling is grief, and that you don't have to stay long in it, but you do have to acknowledge it. And you do have to feel it in order to heal it. And then I think that Christians, for sure, we are horrible. We are horrible because what we do is we just walk up to each other and say, well, you're blessed. God's got a plan.
Yeah.
Romans 8:28 it. Correct.
Right.
He will turn all things together for good. But right now, my heart's ripped out of my chest. And I would love if you would obey scripture and mourn with me as I mourn. If you would bear my burden with me. And we don't know how to do that because we gaslight each other, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We gaslight each other. We just throw scripture at one another and we shut each other down. And then, especially as a pastor, I was feeling that in a big way, where not only did I have to have answers for everybody else, but after I lost my husband, everyone came to me, quoting script. Listen, I know every verse. I've been in, ministry at that point where I can share.
That's not what you needed.
No, I just needed somebody to mourn with me as I mourned and just be with me in my pit, crawl in here with me, see, hear, and validate it just enough to where I get that I'm not alone. And
Hmm.
that's when those verses, that's when they begin to bring that healing
Yeah.
and that hope. But right now, something can be intellectually true or spiritually true, but not emotionally helpful. And most people don't understand that.
Yeah, I think that having grown up in the church and been part of ministry and all this myself,
Yeah.
for what seems like forever,
Yeah.
that always has been, it's like, well, like you said, platitudes, scriptures, trying to get people, because it is a huge thing to get in that pit with somebody. And most of the time they've got their lives, they're busy, their kids, their jobs, they don't really want to. We tend to be, as not just Christians, it's just humans, is to be kind of selfish about it. And one of the things that I don't know, even if this is like within your, like you would agree with this, but one of the things that I've found, having gone through some really bad stuff in my life over the years, is the best response sometimes when people tell you that they're going through divorce, or, oh man, I'm is sick, or my grandma died, whatever it is, and they're just crushed. It's just to be like, I'm just really sorry.
It's it.
Just to, instead of trying to give them some cheer up thing, and then don't tell people you pray for them, pray with them. Like, actually right then, can I pray for you? And just not, oh yeah, I'll text back, I'll be praying for you. You'll forget 10 seconds later.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten to the point where I've tried to immediately pray for that person, or text them and say, okay, I just prayed. What do you need? Is there any way I can help? And actually be there for people.
Yeah. I think that you're exactly right that what our natural tendency is how can I fix this? And people don't need you to fix it. They need you to feel it with them. So if you just hug them and say, I am so sorry you're hurting, that's everything. And I think that we also have this thing where we get scared to be around people who are hurting because we don't know what to say. And we're trying to figure out, okay, what's the best verse I can give them? What's the thing that I can say that makes it better? There's nothing you can say to make this
Mm-mm.
better.
No.
So just don't even try. And it's actually comforting to know, if your listeners are hearing this, I'll let you off the hook that you actually don't have to come up with anything, which I think is wonderful to know, because then I don't have to avoid someone who's grieving because I don't
Yeah.
have to come up with anything. I'm not expected to. And then it's the weird dance where you run into somebody after it and they don't know what to say and they don't bring up the thing because they're afraid to remind you that you lost your husband, as though somehow I've forgotten. It's just an interesting thing that we don't know what to do with one another. And yet
Yeah.
scripture is plain about mourn with those who mourn, yet no one actually teaches us how to do that.
And I think that as a man, we try to fix things. So I'm speaking to the guys out there. You don't have to try to fix everything. And I don't mean just if you're dealing with your mom or your wife or your sister, or a friend, even with other guys. It's like, well, what have you found out? Or, what's the prognosis, or whatever it is. We try to find something to do to fix. And, sometimes the best thing is just being there for that person and being genuinely authentic.
Yeah, I think where we're missing it too, and you're so right with men, is we're also missing it with people have just gone through divorce, because especially as the church, we miss that whole that whole group of people, and it's huge. It's half the congregation, right? I mean, according to statistics, we avoid those. We avoid somebody that's just been through some type of a breakup or a divorce.
Hmm.
I have a client through grief recovery, and she looked at me, and it's so true. She said, Jen, I lost my life the way you lost yours. She said, I planned for my future. So did yours. I had my children. You have yours. She said, the difference is when you lost your husband, you got a casserole. You got people showing up at your door. She said, I'm still waiting on my casserole. Everybody avoids me. No one came to tell me they're sorry I lost my life. They just figure that, you know what, I had a part in it and that I should
Hmm.
work, and they just avoid it. And so it's really sad. And also miscarriage. Miscarriage is the number one most overlooked, under processed grief experience,
Yeah.
because most people will walk up to you and just say, well, at least you can have more children. At least you can try again, or at least you have other children. And you mentioned men, and it's the dad in that situation, the would have been dad. He's the one that never actually gets any moment to grieve that out,
Yeah.
because he's always taking care of mom, and
Yeah.
people are always coming in to take care of her. That
Yeah.
one actually, yeah. So I've got at least three 50 to 60-year-old men through grief recovery who to this day are still grieving over a loss that they had in a miscarriage or an abortion that was had, and nobody ever paid him any mind. Nobody ever paid him any mind, and that's really, it's sad because you're right. Men miss it. We don't give them an opportunity, and especially in those two situations, we really don't.
Yeah, men will find things to self-medicate. It may not be a pill bottle or an alcoholic beverage, but it might be busyness. It might be become the workaholic. It might be, other things that you wouldn't say are really unethical or immoral, but they just throw themselves into things because, especially as most guys can compartmentalize things, is it just gets the attention off that guttural feeling that you have about whatever that loss was.
We call it actually a STIRB, which is a short-term energy relieving behavior. And we never intend for those things to become addictions, but they do.
Yeah.
Right now,
So,
it's something to numb it and get me through, but it becomes an addiction.
we find that a lot of times we don't know where the podcast goes. Global. You never know who's watching or who shared this. But for those that are struggling with depression or they've had some loss of that, no matter what it is, what are some things that, and you can't really kind of popcorn therapeutically help people, but what are some things that you feel like are good that somebody listening today could at least start with, like to kind of move the needle?
Sure. First things first, you got to feel it to heal it. And what you were just talking about is, self medicating, running away from it. Nobody likes to be sad. Nobody likes to feel this thing. And so, what we do is the moment that we feel it coming on, we want to run from it. The greatest thing that you can do in the way that God made our brains, science is now catching up with Bible, but the way that God made our brains is we can process pain if we will just see it, hear it, validate it, eye contact and empathy. That's actually what moves it from the part of the brain where it's stored unprocessed to the place where it gets filed and time sequenced and put away to where it's not so triggerable, which is strange because if you're hooked up to a brain monitor, all it takes is being seen, heard, and validated, eye contact and empathy, which is amazing. So that means that just sit in it and feel it and be with someone in it. And how do you do that? This is probably the best thing that I could say is just be a heart with ears and no mouth. And if you could picture that, anybody that's maybe walking through somebody that's hurting or going through change of any sort, even your children, just be a heart with ears and no mouth. The no mouth meaning you don't have to come up with anything. You don't have to come up with a verse. You don't have to come up with a saying. You don't have to come up with God's going to make good of this. You don't have to come up with anything. Just be a heart with ears and no mouth. Just be there with him in it. And then if you're the griever, then that's what you're looking for. You're looking for one person who will be uncomfortable with you and who will not talk you out of it, who will not gaslight you, who will not make excuses for you or God. And that's the best thing that you can do. We feel like we're not doing enough when we're doing that, but that's all that people need. And it's all that we need. It's all that we need to process the pain and then get up from that place. There's only two things that bring healing, and this is how it works. First, you've got to feel it in order to heal it, and then you can reframe it. You can reframe it, but you can't reframe it before you feel it because it's like building a house on ground that is not firm because it's just saturated with emotion, if that makes sense. And that is why Ecclesiastes says that there's a time to mourn and a time to dance. You can't do one before the other. You can't reframe something before you feel it. You can't dance before you mourn. And so that's the best thing that I can say is those two things. Feel it in order to heal it, and then find someone who will be a heart with ears and no mouth. Just be with me in this pain and I will get through this.
You've created some resources. I know you have this really great book. Talk a little bit about what resources you have, and then talk about your latest book,
Sure.
which I thought was a fascinating concept.
Yeah, yeah. So when I lost my husband, his name is Anthony, and we were in ministry for 25 years full time together, 17 and a half as evangelists, the last 8 as pastors. We planted that church and pastored. And just 1 month before our 8th year anniversary of starting the church, he passed away of COVID. He died in a hospital on lockdown. I did not get a chance to be with him. My children were 17 and 20 at the time. I lost my dad when I was 14 to cancer. So I was very familiar with what was going on in them.
Yeah.
And so, I knew that after he had passed away, he died in that hospital. He was in there 19 days, got a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning on the 16th of August. 2021 that says he's gone. And then it was pretty much take your time, but please hurry. It's kind of like, we need this room. And so that was that. And as you can well imagine, just devastated, just how it happened. And from that point, we were pastoring. And so I had to decide, do I keep the church? What do I do? And I've already been the child in this situation. So I already knew what my children needed. And so I was very aware that I needed to take time to help them through it, or they would end up like me with a huge testimony of running away from your pain
Yeah.
from when I was a child. And so I ended up resigning the church about 6 months after that. The lease was up anyways. And so it was just time. And it was during that time that God brought me back and had me find in my son's room as I was cleaning it out after the death of my husband, a Dr. Seuss book that I had written in for my son when he went away to college. My son, I live in Florida. My son went away to college to Kansas to play football. And when he went, I did what every parent does. I bought the Oh, the Places You'll Go book by Dr. Seuss. That is the number one gifted book every graduation season. And so 4 or 5 years prior to that, to the death of my husband, we had bought it for my son. Inside of it, we wrote, in it. And my son had dealt with depression and anxiety most of his life. And so when he went away to college, I was very concerned with how would he be? Because I was the mom that would always prop him up, give him verses, share
Mhm.
with him things, see if he was not okay, meet him in the corner to talk things through with him. How was he going to be when he went to college? And so he
Yeah.
was going to be 26 hours and 1 minute from my driveway to his dorm. And I was nervous. And so I gave him this book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, to inspire him. And inside I wrote a letter to him, and so did his dad. But I didn't know what to write, David. So I'd never read the book. I had gifted it before, but I'd never.
Hmm.
And so as I was sitting there in his college, in the hotel by his college dorm, I read through the book for the first time to see what to write. And I came across a line in it. I realized, first of all, Oh, the Places You'll Go is one of the most depressing books you'll ever read, even though it has all the pretty colors and it's a cartoon. But it is very much like life. It is the ups and the downs. It's you're going to do great, and then sometimes you don't because sometimes you won't, type of thing. And there's a line in there that says, be careful that you don't get into a slump, because unslumping yourself is not easily done. And I said, aha, I know what I'll do. And I took out a piece of paper and I wrote on at the top, I said, 10 ways to unslump yourself, because unslumping yourself is not easily done. And I put together for him 10 ways to unslump yourself. They were very basic things like do your devotion, take time to hear from God, laugh out loud, stay connected, stay balanced, because he would isolate like everybody else. When you're
Hmm.
down and you're feeling in a dump, you isolate, and that makes it worse. And so they were just 10 very, very basic principles to get up again, to keep moving, to not get stuck, because
Yeah.
unslumping yourself is not easily done. So I wrote it for him many years ago. And then while I was in my slump after the death of my husband, I, quote, came across it by divine
Mhm.
appointment.
Yeah.
As I opened that book and I saw the 10 ways to unslump yourself, because unslumping yourself is not easily done, God said, these are for you. Now use this to get up.
It's amazing.
And I did. And they're super basic, but here's the thing. The book is written where when you open it, well, first of all, if you look at the book, it looks like a Dr. Seuss book in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's not for children. It's for any age, in all honesty. It's called Because Unslumping Yourself is Not Easily Done, Simple Truths for When You're Not Okay, But Don't Know Why. And it really is just something to get you unstuck if you're stuck, or just moving at least a little bit every day. And it's very much written very simply. As you can see, it's not written like a book that has, a ton of words to each page. And here's
Yeah.
because I have an entire stack full of books that people would hand me while I was grieving. After the death of my husband, people would hand me books and I would open it and it would have 8 million words on one page. And I would just blank out and just go, I can't handle this. I cannot think. Grief
Right.
brain is a thing. I can't focus.
Hmm.
Can't read an entire chapter to get some nugget out of it because I can't remember what I read after the first paragraph. And so when God had me put this together, he said, put it together so that no matter where they open at any page, it's a nugget. It's something that will help them to remember that they're not alone. Remember that I see them, that I hear them, versus just little things to just move one step today. And if you don't move one step today, it's okay. You are not alone, but know that you're not moving backward if you're not moving forward. Sometimes we feel like if we're not, making great progress, that somehow we're slipping behind.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can accomplish something. Sometimes literally laying in bed today is all I can do. And if I'm laying there and I'm just weeping or I'm talking to God or I'm just staring at the ceiling, we tend to beat ourselves up while we're already down. And God
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Psalm 34:18 says that he is near the brokenhearted, that he rescues us when we're crushed in spirit. I had always pictured God to be mad at me or frustrated with me, like I was not in faith or I wasn't trusting God if I wasn't going, right? And that's the sad thing is he's near us when we're brokenhearted. He's not standing over us going, get up, you're not in faith, let's go. God showed me that, Jesus wept at the tomb of Lazarus. He did not say to his sisters, to Lazarus's sisters, stop crying, I'm here, have some faith. He
Hmm.
wept with them. And so
Yeah.
it's not a lack of faith and it's not a lack of trust when we're hurting. And so
Hmm.
the book really does just meet you in when you're not okay, it actually is okay.
Yeah. I think if you were raised in the church, like some of our listeners, that whole, you hear the scripture, faith without works is dead. Well, I got to be doing something. Like,
Right.
the idea of just, like you said, doing nothing and just sitting in the recliner and just having a cup of coffee and
Oh,
just being still
yeah.
for a minute, or like you said, maybe you just can't get out of bed today. I think that it's so hard because you feel like that you're just wasting daylight. You're burning daylight. We got stuff we got to do. So tell people, okay, how they can get the book, where they can order it, and because I was fascinated by the book, and you're exactly right. What I did is I jumped ahead and came back and read from the beginning, but I was intrigued by how you had whoa, this is just like a standalone thought. It wasn't, with a Dr. Seuss book, you kind of have to take the path, right?
Right,
He's
right.
taking you on a journey.
Right, or any book, you gotta kinda start in the beginning
Hmm.
and read to the end, so you can literally open it at any given page, and there's something in it, so I appreciate you saying that.
So is there a devotion coming? A calendar devotion?
There's probably a lot of little stuff coming, yes.
Yeah, when I read it, I was like, "Ooh, this you could have a
Yeah.
tear off thing every
Yeah,
day."
yeah. Well, so actually in the back of the book, so there the 10 ways to unslump yourself, actually in the book, there's a little
Hmm.
perforated thing. And so the idea is to take it and put it on your wall like I put on my son's wall in his dorm
Yeah,
room. And so it's the 10 ways to unslump yourself. Start with God, hear from God, laugh out loud, get connected, stay balanced, move your body, be inspired, take one step, control your thoughts. And then the last one is call your mama, because that was for my son. But I know that everybody doesn't have a mama to call. And so we wrote, or someone who knows you best. Because I think that even at that point, we don't feel like anybody cares. And we even have the number for suicide hotline in here. And it's something that most people don't know. The 988 number is really, really important that we know that if you happen to feel like you don't have someone, the numbers in this book. And so how they get it is they can go to getunslumped.com or just they go to Amazon. It's on Amazon. But getunslumped.com is where you'll be able to actually read a chapter of it. If you go to Amazon, you could actually read 2 chapters of it. And the reason why we put the book out, and I got it out pretty quickly for the season when kids would go to college, is on our live one night, we had a young boy come in. He was in his early 20s, and his name was Harrison. And he came onto the live and he said that he didn't want to live. He didn't want to live another day. He had found his roommate who had unalived himself as well. And I say unalived, he committed suicide. Let's just say
yeah,
what it is. But on TikTok, I have to say unalived because
yeah,
we live in a culture, we live in a world where you can't even say the word. So how are we supposed to talk about it? Right. But, anyways, so this gentleman, Harrison, came on and he had found his roommate who unalived himself, and no one was there to help him through it. Harrison came on one night. He was like, I can't do it. He was at an Ivy League school and he said, I don't want to live. So our moderators went around to the back and kind of communicated with him, stayed on the line with him while we, were able to get in touch with his brother, and they got him help.
yeah,
They got him to a hospital. And then a gentleman by the name of Max, a young boy named Max, came on the next night and said, hey, I'm a friend of Harrison's. Harrison wanted me to message you guys and tell you thank you for this community, our live community, for being there with him and for him, getting him help. He's at a hospital, he's doing well, and he just wanted to tell you thank you. So Max came on and stayed with us for about 5 days. And then Max came on and told us that Harrison was taken out of the hospital by his parents and brought home, and then he committed suicide too. And so we lost Harrison as well. And then Max started struggling, and it's been months since we've heard from Max, so we don't know if Max is still with us. And it turns out that there were more than, I believe there were 5 students from that same college, and you can't find it anywhere in the news. You can't find it anywhere talked about. And the sad thing is that when that happened, God said, put them together and get it out there because someone
Yeah.
out there just needs to know whether they've just walk through something like that, or they just don't know what to do, or they're just in pain or just stuck in any way. They just need to get something in their hands to know that they're not alone. So it's actually dedicated to Harrison and Max. And it's really a great gift for anybody that you know is struggling too. You know, it's a gift book. It's easy enough for them. It just lifts their spirits enough to go, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to remind our listeners and our viewers that in the show notes, there's a link to the website as well as the Amazon link. Be sure that you get that and go there and give that to somebody after you read it. Maybe get 2 copies. And we hope that you will definitely make yourself available to those resources because that's amazing that you did that so that other people feel like that they're able to get at least some processing of the whole thing for sure. Talk about besides the authoring that you've done and that, talk about for those that maybe want to find out more about your ministry or if, when you speak and do different things.
Yeah, just jenniferbeckham.org is where they can find out a little bit more. I'm on the live all the time and I don't really take the time to ever promote anything. And I get off and I said, I know you're probably wondering who this chick is that never shuts up online. So, you could always just go to the website and see. And yeah, in there, it's just a little bit about the ministry that has been for the last 29 years, first 25. And then of course, grief recovery. So I do that by day. And then, yeah, I accept invitations to come and minister. When my husband was alive, we did over 600 public schools. So we had
Mm.
a ministry to public schools where we did, quote, character education, but we were able to go in and speak to students about choices and about how to turn things around when they make wrong ones. We also did, corporate leadership, just
Hmm.
wherever God, brings us. I was 21 when I entered into ministry. He was 24. And we started by default with youth ministry just because we were kids.
Hmm.
And then as we grew, but no, we were just evangelists wherever it was that God would bring us. And so God opened some really beautiful, wonderful doors. And we just went wherever, that when we started, revivals were Sunday through Friday. And then it was like Sunday through Wednesday. And then it was like Sunday only revival. And now we don't do revivals anymore. So we would just morph with whatever the church needed. And then we got to the place where it's like, Lord, get us out of the 4 walls of the church. And he did. He brought us into schools, and that was beautiful. We did night crusades. My husband had a power team. And so we would do school assemblies by day, and then we would do big crusades at night and saw thousands saved, whole families coming down to the altar, which was so amazing to see. And then when God brought me into corporate and I started speaking a room full of men, that was so intimidating. And yet at the same time, God just said, speak as though you're a daughter, because
Yeah.
they don't know that their compliment that ends with the word but is so defeating to any young
Yeah.
girl or any young boy.
Sure.
So many young men are being told now that, when they lose their dad, that they're the man of the house. That is the
Hmm.
worst thing you could possibly tell a 12-year-old boy, you're the man of the house. I have so many grief recovery clients who are 17 and 18 years old or even 50 years old that said, I was told that I'm the man of the house now. What do I do with that? I'm 13 years old. I don't know even how to be a boy, let alone a man.
Yeah.
I don't know how to fix my mom and my family. And
Yeah.
so it was just a really beautiful thing when God started bringing me into corporate because he just showed me the angle to just be able to share his heart for us to be able to A, know that we're not alone, and B, what do we do with that? What do we do when life takes a shift and we don't know where to go? So yeah, so I just wherever God would bring me, whether it's pulpits and or conferences, and yeah, so they can find out more on the website. And yeah, I've been out here for 29 years, and now I'm 50, and now I'm starting to be invited to churches where they're pastored by kids that were 12 years old in a youth group, and so that's when we realized, wow, we've been kicking around a really long time.
Yeah, it's amazing how you blink and you're like, wait,
Right.
hold on a second, what happened?
Yeah. Now I'm baptizing babies of babies.
If you ask your average Gen Zer, what do they consider old? Like what? They'd be like, well, I guess probably like the 90s. And you're like, what?
Right?
Say the
Graduated
80s
in
at least,
92.
Which was, by the way, the best music decade. So I
Correct.
remind them of that
Absolutely.
all the time.
Yeah, I was born in 75. I don't know what yours is.
Yeah. No, 75.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gen X for the win. So all the millennials are rolling their eyes right now, guys.
That's
I'm
right.
sorry. Hey, if you're not watching this online, you're not a part of the podcasting community, be sure to follow it. If you're watching on the TV program, I want to remind everybody that maybe you only are catching this in an edited format, that Jennifer does TikTok Live 5 nights a week. So if you're on TikTok, of course, I think more and more people all the time are. I kind of feel like that Gen X, especially Gen X women, have kind of taken over TikTok, which I think is amazing. But tell everybody how to find you on there and what the time.
Yeah.
If you spend any time on TikTok at all,
Right.
people are on there 24/7.
Right.
You can get on there, and there are thousands of people in live rooms at 3 a.m. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Because people are working all kinds of different shifts.
Right. Well, we'll also be live also on YouTube. We're already connected with that. I just forget to hit the button sometimes, and it's just so I need to be better with that. But all of the lives that we do on TikTok, though, are replayed, and you can watch them over on YouTube during the day anyway. So even if you miss it at night,
That's
you
cool.
can still watch it over there, because as soon as the TikTok live is over, it sends us the video, and then we can upload it. And so we do. So evening times. So we're only off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, because when I started, it was 7 nights a week, and we realized that we need to sleep. Yeah. Because we are all a community that doesn't. And so we are on Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays late. Those we're on 10:30 at night to about 2:00 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. I'm in Florida, so Eastern Standard Time. And then our Sundays are a little bit different. Sundays and Mondays we're on early from 9:30 to 12:30. And the reason for that is we got so many emails going, hey, can you come on earlier for the people that actually have jobs the next morning, and we actually sleep normal hours? And so, but what I started doing, realizing that I was so missing my pulpit and so missing just bringing the word, because our TikTok lives are very just open forum. The Holy Spirit just leads the conversation by whatever questions are asked. So there's no format to those. But on Sunday, we started about 16 weeks ago, started doing from 9:30 to 10:30. 10:45, I shut down the comment section, and then I just bring a word, whatever God, laid on my heart. And so like last night, we dove into John 5 and started talking about the man with the issue of that was pool of Bethesda for 38 years, stuck for 38 years. And so we talked about that. And so we did that. We do that on Sundays from 9:30 to 10:30 or 10:45. And then we just open the comment section back up. So Sundays are the only time that you can actually come and hear me preach or minister or speak, depending on if you need to call me a speaker instead of a preacher, that's fine. And then of course, Monday.
Well, I've heard you preach on there. You're a preacher.
And then, well, some people say I'm not allowed, so that's okay. We get a lot of that in my.
That is not this program.
Too. Right. So we get a lot of that in my comment section too. And then on Mondays we come back at the same time. So Sundays and Mondays 9:30 to 12:30 Eastern Standard Time PM, and then off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then back on Thursday, Friday, Saturday late. Yeah.
Well, that is awesome. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I really believe that.
Yeah.
We don't always know who listens or watches. People can see, of course, on YouTube, on pray.com, on the GB channel. And of course, they can see it on Spotify as audio or video. But we never know how, somebody shares this and it might have helped somebody. So if you are dealing with, depression, grief, trauma, don't get isolated. Please reach out, connect with Jennifer find her on her website, jenniferbeckham.org, or through all the social media, including TikTok, which is pretty amazing. Being a Gen Xer, I think it's great that we utilize we didn't grow up with it, but we'll adapt to the technology.
And I got to tell you, I'm probably not using any of the platforms to all the bells and functions that they have, but we're doing the best we can. So I believe on all the platforms, it's _ Jennifer Beckham. But
well, and the thing is that they change stuff. Just when you think you have it figured out, they add some feature that you didn't know that you needed. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. And then you add in the whole
Yeah.
enveloping of AI into everything.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
amazing. Well,
I love that it wasn't a plan, that it was most definitely a
yeah.
divine appointment, and I've just let God do whatever with it. And I think if I tried harder, I might screw it up. So I'm just gonna keep doing what I do.
Well, a friend of mine, he's an innovation VP, and he's often said that, you know, when the scripture talks about the streaming of the word, he says, you know, how God, that people will come to the kingdom through the streams, and I'm botching what he says, the scripture, but he's like, maybe it's not actual streams, Dave. Maybe it's streaming, you know, the technology. And I'm like, well, how will everybody on earth hear the message or is hearing the message for the first time? It isn't always a missionary standing in the middle of the village. Sometimes it's people remotely around the world or even in a big city in another country that are finding it on their phone.
Yeah.
They're flipping through, or they're flipping through a channel, or they're going through on, and they come across the social media page. So we love that you're able to use the technology and make a difference and really reach people. And I think it's so cool. And I want to, again, encourage people to go check out. You can find her book. Look in the show notes. I have everything there. I know sometimes people that commute, they're like, I can't write stuff down. It's all right there. And I want to definitely have you come back on and talk. Maybe now that we've done the program, a little bit of an assignment. I'll be like, okay, what is something, you know, you can specifically like have, and we can like address a topic. I love what you said about dealing with grief with people that are going through divorce or miscarriages or all that. And I think that's something that'd be really great to talk about.
I would love it. I would love it. That's my wheelhouse anytime. I would be honored. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for coming on, Jennifer. And for those of you listening, be sure to share, like, go on YouTube, hit that bell, and follow us on whatever platform that you prefer to listen or watch the podcast. Or I think we're on just about every single one of them. And until next time, I want to thank our friends at OurTrueGod.com for their support. I will see you on the next GEB America podcast. And thank you again for tuning in.